Nichole, you've been incredibly patient waiting for this conversation to get all the way to you in Dallas. And so let me ask you to peel back where the board's been kind of thinking about and how they're fitting into this conversation and helping, protect the corner office, as we said at the beginning.
Absolutely, Dennis, and really thoughtful comments by Eric and Heather. And Eric, thank goodness your firm is in the business that you are. These are just it's a whole new day. So, Dennis, I'll probably just pivot there and kind of tie into what Eric was just sharing. And as you all know, just the volatility, the activist pressures, the kind of this always on scrutiny. Really, the CEOs, they almost have less time to prove themselves, and they face a higher risk of early exit. And so boards, from the board perspective, really need to treat CEO longevity and health as a critical asset to protect. And so the health and the well-being side is something that is a newer element that we have seen that we have certainly been doing a lot of work on. But CEO well-being is a material governance issue that really needs to be addressed and very thoughtfully from the board's standpoint. The board can no longer really assume the CEO will tough it out unaided as maybe some of the thinking of the past, but directors really need to be proactive in supporting just the human side behind the CEO to ensure an environment that thrives. So we really see four key practices where boards are really leveraging strategies to enhance the CEO's staying power, their well-being, and incorporating that into their oversight duty. The first, and it will tie into some of the thoughts that Heather shared, is building a high trust relationship, and that is just disciplined and intentional efforts to cultivate trust between the board and the CEO. And so I'll just give a couple of specific examples. Number one is private executive sessions between the directors and the CEO without a formal agenda that really can kind of serve as a bit of a pressure release valve and really being able to just kind of share, have a sounding board opportunity. Individual directors serving as coaches or confidants to the CEO so that they are not truly alone at the top, and the CEO feels heard and that the board has their back, mitigates a lot of the stresses as well, and we've seen this across the board. So cultivating a culture where the CEO is comfortable just admitting pressures, asking for help rather than feeling guarded all the time is a very good practice today. The second thing is prioritizing the CEO well-being and placing that as a governance matter that we may not have looked at it that way in the past. But traditionally, I think, as has been said, boards are focused on the CEO performance metrics as the top priority, and it is very important. But to get to that, we've got to look at the workload, the health, and the overall work-life balance. So prioritizing that overall well-being is very critical, and that's monitoring the early warning signs. For burnout, for fatigue. If you see, pardon me, noticeable changes in behavior, in decision making, in health. The energy of the CEO. So it's the board has really got to be proactive. And some boards now explicitly are discussing the CEO's stress level and resilience as part of the executive session to really keep a finger on the pulse there. We've also seen in the CEO well-being category our clients that are incorporating the executive care programs, just wellness exams with executive health centers that really provide a holistic view and a plan for the CEO and frankly for their leaders as well. If that's executive physicals, it's really designed overall to safeguard the company's most critical assets, the leadership team. So we also see just other things, ensuring the CEO is taking regular vacations, delegating more, that they're utilizing an executive coach that is a confidential resource if needed, and just kind of arranging for that outside outlet is very helpful. So there are two other points I'll share here. The third is just setting realistic expectations and support. Um, Boards really, you want to realign on a reasonable time frame for achieving strategic goals, and that also is very helpful in managing the pressure. So if the board can proactively offer support, if it's additional resources, if it is adjustments to the strategy, if it is extending timelines to the extent that is possible, rather than simply increasing the demands. If there is that kind of open dialogue, that is extremely helpful. Oftentimes, we also see the board just helping with the public facing load that can kind of reduce some of that where it is the CEO only that is the public facing position. And that also reinforces the team approach and kind of shares some of that burden. And the fourth thing that we are seeing is just encouraging succession bench development. And you might think of that as that might not reduce the stress if you're kind of thinking about the succession process, but boards really need to urge the CEOs to delegate and to develop talent and to be a part of that succession planning. Really critical. And so those are some of the things we're seeing, Dennis. But at the end of the day, boards really should treat the CEO longevity and health as a very critical asset that they are looking to protect.
Thanks, Nichole. A couple questions sprung to mind as you were kind of walking us through that list of items. Where does this happen, right? Board agendas are packed. Meetings happen the day before. People fly in, they fly out. Is this happening in the board meeting? Is it happening outside? What's the process to make this really stand up and be sustainable in a meaningful way?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think truly where we are seeing it most frequently is that there are extended meetings or ensuring that there's time kind of before the night before, the day before the board meetings, so that there is time for more of the informal conversation. The well-being plan, though, that is something that is being incorporated into an overall documentation related to the resilience plan. So both the operation and financial resilience plan, this is being incorporated there.
And how do you balance privacy? If, wellness plan and health plan, the privacy of the executive, if he or she doesn't want somebody to know something that they have that for them is very personal, but obviously depending upon the severity of it, could have that impact on the tenure in the corner office, if you will.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of case by case, but in general, I think by and large, what we have seen is that there is very open dialogue between the CEO and the board. We've seen really the situations where the CEO is very welcoming of kind of having that partnership, and that there is a thoughtful approach to balancing the well-being and the responsibilities. And it's also kind of a long-term plan. You're looking at succession planning. You're looking at ensuring that there is an ongoing kind of living process for updating that succession plan, and that's a regular part of the board agenda as well. So it becomes more of a holistic approach to really protect the corner office. It's the most important asset that you have in the company, and it's something to stay engaged in the planning process throughout the year. But those are some of the ways that we see it really being brought to bear.